Good afternoon, everybody. I apologize for my tardiness, but I came directly from the Oval. I have some newsy updates to share from the president, which I know you all very much value and appreciate. So let's get to it. The president promised millions of Christians across the country on the campaign trail that he would create a White House faith office when he returned.
The White House plans extraordinary Holy Week as Trump honors Easter with the observance it deserves.
To the White House.
Trump's robust Holy Week celebration comes after the Biden White House declared Easter 2024 Transgender Day of Visibility. What?
And he has delivered on that promise. The White House Faith Office has put together an extraordinary week-long celebration currently underway for Holy Week ahead of Easter Sunday. The president signed a Holy Week proclamation, filmed a special presidential video message, and will be hosting a pre-Easter dinner tomorrow night and a White House staff Easter worship service on Thursday. The president and the first lady are honored to continue the tradition of the White House Easter egg roll, which will take place on the South Lawn next Monday. In other news, President Trump is turning America into a manufacturing superpower again.
What up,
Yesterday, there was a monumental announcement by NVIDIA, one of the largest companies in the world. This is just the latest example. For the first time ever, chip-making giant NVIDIA will produce AI supercomputers entirely in the United States as part of its pledge to produce $50 billion worth of AI infrastructure in our country over the next 4 years. With their manufacturing partners, they have commissioned more than 1 million square feet of manufacturing space to build and test NVIDIA Blackwell chips in the great state of Arizona and AI supercomputers in the great state of Texas. NVIDIA's
That's really good that they're bringing all that stuff to America.
Founder and CEO Jensen Huang touted how the engines of the world's AI infrastructure are being built in the United States for the first time. This is the Trump effect. This follows trillions in other U.S. investments announced already, including $500 billion from Apple in U.S.-based manufacturing and training, $100 billion from TSMC in U.S.-based chips manufacturing, and the $500 billion private investment led by OpenAI, Oracle, and SoftBank in artificial intelligence infrastructure. Under President Trump, we're going to produce the cars, the ships, the chips, the airplanes, minerals, and medicines that we need right here in America at the hands of American workers. On the border, President Trump continues to break records and protect our homeland. According to CBP, Border Patrol apprehensions along the southwest border for the entire...
Exactly, Mike. Miranda said Trump's just doing what. Hey, if y'all can't hit the like button so we can push this into the algorithm of hundreds and all of that. You know, how they be trying to play.
Higher month of March 2025 were lower than the first 2 days of
Dodge, he said she sounds like a chat box, borderline literate. No, she's like, I think she's 27 years old. To be able to do this takes a lot. You know, she's reading all of this information and she's like responding off the cuff. Like, I think she's doing a pretty good job, if you ask me. I don't think she's doing bad. And the one thing I do like about her, she's not afraid of questions. Like, she'll answer the questions and she's quick to, you know, to put out an answer. Or if she doesn't know anything about a specific topic, she'll just say, you know, I'll leave that up to the president to say what he needs to say about that. You know, she doesn't divulge what does not need to be divulged. I think she does a good job, like, overall.
March 2024 under Joe Biden. Incredible law enforcement officers are arresting violent illegal aliens from American communities every day. Here are a few examples from the latest ICE report, which I received this morning. ICE Los Angeles arrested a 54-year-old citizen of Mexico convicted of rape by threat, sodomy with a person under 14 years.
That is like real crazy. First of all, that people be doing this. And then second of all, like, it's a lot of these illegal immigrants that's coming here doing this craziness. That's the thing. Like, when you have people coming in here from different countries, you don't know like people's mind states. You know what I mean? Like, you can't just be like, okay, we're just going to have everybody in here and not know like what people like be thinking. Somebody said remarkably human.
And kidnapping in San Jose, California. ICE Houston has arrested a 23-year-old citizen of Mexico convicted of predatory criminal sexual assault of a child in Cook County, Illinois.
Crazy.
ICE Houston arrested a 64-year-old citizen of Honduras convicted of murder in Los Angeles County, California. ICE Chicago arrested a 49-year-old citizen of Guatemala convicted of assault and arson in Prince Williams, Virginia, not far from here. ICE Denver arrested a 36-year-old citizen of Mexico who is registered as a sex offender and has been convicted of sexual assault of a child in Lake
No, Justin, you can't. You got to stay in here.
County, Colorado. ICE Baltimore arrested a 50-year-old citizen of China convicted of sex trafficking in Bel Air, Maryland. And ICE Boston arrested a 46-year-old citizen of Jamaica convicted of 3 counts of rape of a child and 2 counts of indecent assault and battery.
Yo, he don't even look like, he look like he's American. Of
a child under 14 in Boston, Massachusetts. President Trump and our administration will not rest.
And shout out to Pam Bondi, like she's putting the Department of Justice to work. She not playing, and she just announced like it was somebody else that was messing up like Teslas and stuff like that, and she's I think she's pressing for 40 years, and President said no deal. It's crazy.
Until every single violent illegal alien is removed from our country. The safety of the American people is too important to settle for anything less. On that note, the Democrat and media outrage over the deportation of Abrego Garcia, an MS-13 El Salvadorian illegal alien criminal who is hiding in Maryland, has been nothing short of despicable. Based on the sensationalism of many of the people in this room, you would think we deported a candidate for Father of the Year. That's because, unfortunately, many in this country care more about this quote-unquote Maryland father, a legal alien MS-13 gang member, than a Maryland mother and an American citizen who was brutally murdered at the hands of a different illegal alien. Of course, I am referring to Rachel Morin. And if you didn't see yesterday, a Maryland jury found illegal alien Victor Antonio Martinez Hernandez guilty of murdering Rachel Morin in August of 2023. She was a 37-year-old mother of 5 who was jogging in an otherwise safe community northeast of Baltimore when this monster ambushed, strangled, and beat her to death before stuffing her brutalized body.
Hey, this is crazy.
In a tunnel drain. The Morin family finally got justice yesterday, but they will never get Rachel back. Our hearts go out to Rachel's family, her 5 children, and her mother, Patty, who has suffered the unimaginable loss of her daughter. In case you missed it last week, President Trump signed a national security presidential memorandum directing federal agencies administering federal land on the border to make land available to the Defense Department in a new national defense area. This followed the president.
Trump authorizes military to take control of federal land along southern border. Okay.
President's Day 1 executive order committing his administration to marshal all available resources.
Carr said, deport.
Resources and authorities to stop the unprecedented flood of illegal aliens into our country and to obtain complete operational control of the borders of the United States of America.
No, Micah Perez, like, it's crazy. It's crazy.
Once again, the president is fulfilling another key promise.
And then the crazy part about it, like, they try to act like none of that happened, Micah.
New national defense area
Eminence of Oots said 1 American life is too many. Yeah. And bro, he's like making our country safer. This is what I don't understand why people don't like him. It's like, okay, well, if you don't like him because of his political stance, do you like being safe? Do you like not having all of these gangs in your neighborhood, like taking over and extorting you for your rent and your mortgage payments? And you know what I'm saying? Like, he's trying to stop this stuff from going on out here. Like, these women, like, when we hear about, like, what she's saying, like, these women being, like, taken advantage of and stuff like that happening and forced and all of that, that happens a lot. That's not happening very rarely. It happens a lot. And they're trying to crack down on that and stop it. Yeah, hit the like button if you can. You're cracking down on it and they stopping it. You know what I mean? So, like, that's dope. And, like, the amount of people flooding into the border has gone down to record lows. I feel like he's just, everything that he said he was going to do, that he's promising, he's doing. That's how I feel.
More than 170 miles across our border in New Mexico. But in the coming weeks, this administration will add more than 90 miles in the state of Texas. This national defense area will enhance our ability to detect, interdict, and prosecute the illegal aliens, criminal gangs, and terrorists who were able to invade our country without consequence for the past 4 years under the Biden administration. It will also bolster our defenses.
Okay, somebody that didn't super chat said, a concerned world citizen said, very silly argument the host is making. America will pay a very high price. Like, what are you even talking about? How is me talking about illegal immigrants who are here committing crime? How does that have anything to do with America is going to pay a high price? Like, what are you talking about? Do you want to call up here or something? Like, what are you saying?
Against fentanyl and other dangerous narcotics that have been poisoning our communities. With all of this work being done to make America great again, we continue
with the tariffs or something like that. I mean, there's like over 75 countries that came to the table, and 50 of those countries are trying to do a 0% tariff, 0 for 0 tariff, like, which has not been done before. So like, how are we like going to pay exactly? What I mean, like TikTok trying to make you think we're gonna pay? Like, TikTok is like a Chinese app. Like, are they like indoctrinating you and making you believe that we're going to pay? Like, we don't have to get all of our goods from China. We get a lot of them from China, you know, but we can get goods from other places, you know, and if we do have to pay like a higher tariff for China, whatever, there's like all different other countries that we don't have to pay high tariffs on. Like, I like what he's doing, man. Let him do what he got to do. Let him put pressure on China. Let us see what's going to happen. And you see him, like, I feel like they somewhat folding. Shout out to old Red Tooth Bush with the $1 donation. Appreciate you. I feel like they kind of folded in a way. Like, look, they're weaponizing TikTok. I got off TikTok. You know what I'm saying? I made like a TikTok today, you know, because I was doing, like, I did 3 TikToks recently. One of them did 500,000 views, because you know I got like my TikToks be doing like millions of views, right? So I've got like one of the last ones I did 500,000 views. Another one did like 300,000 views, and then like this hit like all this tariff stuff. So then I did like a video and it did like 1,000 like views or something like that. I'm like, oh, I see what they're doing. And then when I scroll through TikTok, it's showing like, oh, TikTokers who are in China are trying to expose America, like companies saying that they're getting all of their goods from China. We already knew that they were getting all their goods from China. We already knew that. What are y'all exposing? And those are the videos that they're pushing on TikTok now. So it's like, now I gotta chill out on TikTok. You know what I mean? But yeah, like, what are y'all exposing? Yeah, okay, Gucci. I don't be buying Gucci all the time. I bought Gucci once, Louis once. Like, I don't be buying all that stuff like that. Like, who cares?
To see a positive response from the American public. A brand new poll published from the Daily Mail and JL Partners this morning found that President Trump's approval rating is at an all-time high. That's because the president is working tirelessly to keep his promises to the American people, as I just saw him doing today in the Oval Office. We have a reporter in our new media seat today, Matthew Foldy. I like your boots, Matt, who is the editor-in-chief of the Washington Reporter. Washington Reporter is a new, fast-growing outlet that breaks stories about legislation and interviews leaders in Congress and across the administration. The publication's readership includes the highest levels of business in government. And with that, please kick us off, Matt.
And we've interviewed you as well. So Karoline, thanks so much for having me here on behalf of our readership and the millions of Americans who I think appreciate what you're doing with the new media seat here and making this a more accessible briefing room. I'm curious, with Harvard, we saw the Trump administration today announced it's cutting around $2 billion, or freezing $2 billion in funds to Harvard.
I don't care. I think he needs to do a 400% tariff. I don't care, bro. I'll pay like whatever that equates to. I don't care. Let him do it. Let him see what he can do. Bring more companies back to America. Let him do it.
Because the campus has serious problems with...
Sorry, I'm supporting my president. It's what it is.
Violence and with anti-Semitism. We saw a president...
But I understand a lot of people are kind of like, yo, like, this is crazy. Like, you know, the price of goods is going to go... Yeah, I mean, they might go up. You know, whatever. Like, I don't care. I don't be buying Nikes anyway. Like, I don't care. I don't care.
Former President Obama, side with Harvard, which rejected the Trump administration's demands. I'm curious, where does the administration see this going with Harvard and with other colleges and universities in America that are refusing to reform in wake of the sort of craziness that we've seen take over some of them?
Thank you, Matt, for being here, and thanks for the question. When it comes to Harvard, the president's position on this is grounded in common sense, in the basic principle.
I mean, y'all got this like TikTok trying to convince y'all that America is worse than China. Like, no, they're crazy. I'll be seeing like stuff that app be doing. Like, it'll be like, in a lot of it is like based off your For You page. So I got 2 TikToks, right? One, I look up like stuff that goes on in liberal news just to see what they doing, right? And then another one like is where I have like conservative news or whatever. And then like I'll be scrolling sometimes, like, comedy and stuff pulls up, but then sometimes it'll be, oh well, look, it's only $500 a month to live in China, and you can live in the high rise, and all right, try to make money in China. See how easy that's gonna be. Like, there's a reason why factories and stuff is in China. Like, it's cheap labor. So yeah, your rent might be $400 or $500 to live in China, but think how hard it's gonna be for you to make that money in China. Like, no, like they be pushing like they own propaganda, and then you get out there, and then you get arrested for something, and you screwed. You know what I mean? Like, no, y'all, like, they crazy.
That Jewish American students
I think they, I mean, I don't want to say they need to get rid of TikTok because I'm on there and my TikTok doing real good. I don't want to say that, but if they're going to weaponize TikTok, they need to remove it. They need to remove it. You know what I mean? Like, to be real. Like, all these other, like, YouTube don't be doing that. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, they don't be doing the stuff like that. So they need to remove it. Get rid of it. You're going to be operating in this country and you're going to be trying to sway the minds of Americans. That's what they be doing. Every once in a while, like somebody, like I showed you, oh, well, you can move to Thailand and you can move to here and you can move to China. And look how we eat in China. Look how great it is here. And then all of a sudden you be getting like videos popping up and why we got to pay taxes and why we got to work 40 hours a week. And like they trying to like use TikTok, in my opinion. Could be my For You page, whatever. In my opinion, because both of my TikToks be doing this, it seems like they're trying to slowly like agitate the American citizens to rise up against America, to be tired of America. That's what it feels like to me. So yeah, if they're going to be doing that, and then now they're getting a little bit more crazy with it because they're pushing anti-Trump, anti-America propaganda. They are pushing that on us. You know, like, and then we allowed y'all to operate here? No. Like, they wildin'. No.
Students of any faith should not be illegally harassed and targeted on our nation's college campuses. And we unfortunately saw that illegal discrimination take place on the campus of Harvard. There are countless examples to prove it, particularly with the stunning confession by then Harvard President Claudine Gay, who said that bullying and harassment depended on the context. The president at that time made it clear to the American public he was not going to tolerate illegal harassment and anti-Semitism taking place in violations of federal law. So the president made it clear to Harvard, follow federal law, no longer break Title VI, which was passed by Congress to ensure no student can be discriminated against on the basis of race, and you will receive federal funding. Unfortunately, Harvard has not taken the president or the administration's demands seriously. All the president is asking, don't break federal law, and then you can have your federal funding. I think the president is also begging a good question.
Yo, Harvard University getting federal funding is crazy. Yo, you know how much they be charging people to go to school there? Like, bruh, how much is tuition in Harvard? Like, what, bruh? Hold on. Harvard University. Like, crazy. Tuition a year, $57,000 a year. Like, no, bro.
More than $2 billion out the door to Harvard when they have a more than $50 billion endowment. Why are the American taxpayers
$50 billion endowment? And what do we pay? Y'all don't think that's crazy? These colleges are scammy, bruh.
Subsidizing a university that has billions of dollars in the bank already, and we certainly should not be funding a place where such grave anti-Semitism exists.
And I'm curious, you just mentioned Rachel Morin.
What do they be researching anyway? Like at Harvard, like what is? Come on, bro.
I'm a Maryland man, and I think most Marylanders appreciate what you were saying today. We've seen that Chris Van Hollen, who was Rachel Morin's senator, basically threatening to fly to El Salvador to press for the release of someone who was in America.
Nancy Rowan said these professors need to be investigated. They are the problem. Marco said, France, we are chilling.
Illegally. And not as much sort of from him about Rachel Morin's horrific murder and the verdict that was, I think, rightly reached yesterday. What does the administration think about the priorities we're seeing from Senate Democrats in terms of illegal immigrants instead of the work that agencies like ICE and DHS are doing with the Trump administration?
It's mind-boggling, the priorities of the modern-day Democrat Party. I think it's atrocious that you have Democrats in Congress on Capitol Hill who swear an oath to protect their constituents and to serve them in Washington, D.C., spending more time defending illegal immigrant gang members than their own constituents and law-abiding American citizens like Rachel Morin. And I saw the president personally on the campaign trail, and I continue to see him in his role as president of the United States, put American families first, reach out to the victims, the families of victims at the hands of illegal immigrant crime, and frankly, the actions and the words of the Democrat Party prove they could not care less about the American public. And maybe if they did, they'd see a bit higher approval ratings right now. Thanks for being here with us today. Peter.
Thank you, Caroline. To follow up on something that you just said, why do Ivy League schools get so much federal funding?
It's a very good question, and it's a question the president has obviously raised in his discussions and negotiations with not just Harvard, but also Columbia and many other Ivy League institutions. We have the Anti-Semitism Task Force, which the president promised and delivered on. The Anti-Semitism Task Force is across the government, representatives from various federal agencies who meet on a weekly basis to discuss the question that you just raised. And I think a lot of Americans are wondering why their tax dollars are going to these universities when they are not only indoctrinating.
Yo, if you saying something like subversive or something, hit the super chat. I'll read it.
Our nation.
I'm not about to respond to you for free. This video is probably going to do like 80,000 views. I'm not going to respond to you for free.
Students, but also allowing such a
I know Democrats want everything for free.
egregious illegal behavior to occur.
To follow up on immigration, deporting American citizens to Central American prisons. Is it legal, or do you need to change the law to do it?
Well, it's another question that the president has raised. It's a legal question that the president is looking into. And he talked about this yesterday when with his meeting with President Bukele in the Oval Office. He would only consider this, if legal, for Americans who are the most violent, egregious, repeat offenders of crime who nobody in this room wants living in their communities.
And then there's this CHNB thing. President Biden let more than 530,000 people from Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, Venezuela into the U.S. with this CHNB program. He did it with the stroke of a pen. And now a judge will not let President Trump undo it with the stroke of a pen. So,
isn't that crazy?
Are you guys going to give all 530,000 plus people individual deportation hearings, or are you just going to try to deport them?
I spoke to White House counsel's office about this morning because obviously another rogue district court judge is trying to block the administration's mass deportation efforts with this latest injunction. We will fight this in the court of law, and we will ensure that every individual who illegally entered our country and was really taken advantage of by the previous administration because they abused the parole system in this country to fast track legal status, as they said, for these illegal immigrants, and they completely abused our legal system. Many of these paroled individuals were then given temporary protective status, which the intention of that TPS was only supposed to be used in times of war or storm or destruction in the home countries of these migrants. It was completely abused. These migrants came here for economic reasons, and they illegally entered our country, and the president is not going to tolerate that. And so we will continue to focus on deporting as many individuals as we can. Jennifer.
Keeping their promise to the American people.
Tariffs and one on Russia. Can you give us any sort of an update on which deals are in hand or are close? Which countries are reaching a deal on tariffs? And then on Russia, can you give us an update on what the agreement was with Russia? The president yesterday said that he thinks we'll be seeing some very good deals very soon. Can you talk a little bit about what Russia agreed to?
Sure. I don't want to get ahead of our United States Trade Ambassador and Secretary of Commerce, the Secretary of Treasury, all the great individuals who are working incredibly hard to cut these good trade deals. And the president's deeply involved in this as well. He has made it clear to his trade team he wants to personally sign off on all of these deals too. And so I don't want to get ahead of them on announcements, but obviously, as you've heard from numerous administration officials, there have been many talks with countries. We've had more than 15 deals, pieces of paper put on the table, proposals that are actively being considered. And as we've said consistently, more than 75 countries have.
Somebody said, Mike said, true, groceries went down and marked up.
Reached out. So there's a lot of work to do. We very much understand that, but we do believe that we can announce some deals very soon.
Hello said, a stroke of a pen. I can't help but remember Kamala's quote.
And then on Russia, can you say, did Russia agree to anything with Special Envoy Steve Witkoff?
I don't want to get ahead of those negotiations as well. What I can tell you is that they were a productive conversation was had. As the presidential envoy Steve Witkoff said last night, he believes that Russia wants to end this war, and the president believes that as well. There is.
You know what's crazy? When Zelensky went to the White House, Trump was trying to do a ceasefire right then. He wanted Zelensky to go ahead and do a ceasefire and then negotiate terms like later. But Zelensky didn't want to do that. So from that point on, like how long ago was that, bro? This is crazy. This is a minute ago, right? So that happened a while ago. So since then, they've still been at war. That's insane. That is insanity, bro. So for that happened a month ago, and people still out in the field getting like, yo. And Zelensky just flying around getting money from everybody while soldiers are on the ground, like going through it.
Incentive for Russia to end this war, and perhaps that could be economic partnerships with the United States, but we need to see a ceasefire first, and the president and the presidential envoy Witkoff made that very clear to the Russians. Gabe.
Thank you, Caroline. And
Yeah.
I also want to thank your press office for releasing that information that you cited up there regarding the ICE arrests over the last couple of days. And I have them right here, but what I might ask is, why not release the same information for those who were deported to El Salvador?
Well, first of all, the information was released by the Department of Homeland Security. The individuals on the flights to El Salvador are foreign terrorists, and those are counterterrorism operations. They are much different than the arrests and final order of removals that you see on a day-to-day basis that law enforcement agents are conducting around the country.
That information was not, to that detail, was not released by DHS.
I just told you the reason. It was a counterterrorism operation, a deportation of foreign terrorists, not illegal criminals who have been
I just told you.
convicted of heinous.
Yo, Karoline, talk crazy to him. Karoline, hold on.
Was not, to that detail, was not released by DHS.
I just told you the reason. It was a counterterrorism operation, a deportation of foreign terrorists, not illegal criminals who have been convicted of heinous crimes living in our American communities.
She like, keep up, bruh.
It's two different things. Foreign terrorist, illegal immigrant criminal, two different things, two different definitions. You should look them up. Christian, go ahead.
Oh! She dogged him! She said, oh, you should look up, like, talk crazy to him, Karoline, talk crazy. Yo, we gotta watch that one more time. Better talk crazy to him one more time.
Arrests and final order of removals that you see on a day-to-day basis that law enforcement agents are conducting around the country.
That information was not, to that detail, was not released by DHS.
I just told you the reason. It was a counterterrorism operation, a deportation of foreign terrorists, not illegal criminals who have been convicted of heinous crimes living in our American communities. Two different things. Foreign terrorist, illegal immigrant criminal, two different things, two different definitions. You should look them up. Christian, go ahead.
No! I might have to do a whole nother video on this of her destroying him.
Yeah, thanks, Caroline. Does the president support raising the corporate?
Yeah, for whoever that was in here earlier talking about, oh, she don't seem like she's literate and she know what she's doing. She just smoked that dude. She knows what she's doing.
Tax rate to pay for all these other tax cuts.
Hold on, let me rewind that. I was running my mouth. Hold on.
Illegal immigrant criminal, two different things, two different definitions. You should look them up. Christian, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Caroline. Does the president support raising the corporate tax rate to pay for all these other tax cuts he wants to see move through Congress?
Why you gotta raise the corporate tax rate and do all? Why can't he just use tariffs? For now. What y'all doing?
I've seen this idea proposed. I've heard this idea.
Won't y'all just stop spending a whole bunch of money unnecessarily? That can do it. Y'all ran Elon Musk out of Department of Government Efficiency. Like, trying to burn his buildings down, doing all that craziness. And he was actually saving the federal government all kind of money. You know, so why don't y'all, like, stop trying to do that to his companies. Let him come back to Department of Government Efficiency without him having to fear that his companies are going to go under because of what y'all doing. And then we can save money and continue on the progress so you don't have to keep raising taxes.
Discussed, but I don't believe the president has made a determination on whether he supports it or not.
And then secondly, do you have any information on the status of Eden Alexander?
Sophia, I can't let the video just completely play. This is a reaction. It will get taken down. You have to stop it periodically and react to it. That's how it goes. That's why I could like do reaction videos for like hours if I want to, because you have to do that. You can't just play it all the way through or they will take it down.
Hamas says they lost.
Don't be talking to me like that, Sophia. Who do you think you is, Sophia Nicole? She said, Jesus, let the video play. No!
Attacked with the unit guarding him following an Israeli airstrike earlier today.
I don't have updates. I have not seen that report, but I can certainly check in with our National Security Council. I have spoken to the president about Eden Alexander, and he's made it very clear to our national security team that finding him is a priority, but unfortunately I don't have any updates to share. But it's a very important matter, and certainly we can check in. Sure.
Hi. How concerned is the president that a federal judge could hold a Trump administration official in contempt of court for defying deportation orders?
We are complying with all court orders. So I see what you're trying to do there with that question, but we're very confident that every action taken by this administration is within the confines.
Yo, Sophia, you got me like scared to talk now, bro. Like, come on, Sophia! Play the video. No, nobody want to hear you.
Of the law, and we continue to comply with the court's orders, and you have seen that, and the president made that clear yesterday in the Oval Office with President Bukele. Sure.
Thanks, Caroline. Could you, just going back to El Salvador, could you just explain to us a little bit more about the legal basis on which you may be able to send US citizens to prison there? I know you said that President Trump is looking at it, but can you explain to us a little bit more about how that might be possible?
We're looking at it, and when I have more for you to share, I certainly will. Sure.
Thanks. Still going off the El Salvador questions. Yesterday in the Oval Office, administration officials made it very clear that El Salvador is responsible for Mr. Abrego Garcia, yet El Salvador's president said we're not going to do anything with him. So my question is, who is responsible for this man and where he's going to end up?
Well, no. First of all, President Bukele said that he is not going to smuggle a foreign terrorist back into the United States of America, as many...
Ooh, I love how she clarified that. Shout out to Karoline Leavitt. She is on it. Don't be trying to come in here, reporter, and try to like mislead people. Like, hold on, let's let Karoline cook real quick.
Well, no. First of all, President Bukele said that he is not going to smuggle a foreign terrorist back into the United States of America, as many in this room in the Democrat Party seemingly want him to do. Abrego Garcia was a foreign terrorist. He is an MS-13 gang member. He was engaged in human trafficking.
And remember, they label, if you are like leaders of gangs and all of that, like they are labeling you like terrorist organizations. So that gives them a lot of latitude to do a lot of different things.
Trafficking. He illegally came into our country. And so deporting him back to El Salvador was always going to be the end result. There is never going to be a world in which this is an individual who's going to live a peaceful life in Maryland, because he is a foreign terrorist and a MS-13 gang member. Not only have we confirmed that, President Bukele yesterday in the Oval Office confirmed that as well. So he went back to his home country, where he will face consequences for his gang affiliation and his engagement in human trafficking. I'm not sure what is so difficult about this for everyone in the media to understand, and it's appalling, truly appalling, that there has been so much time covering this alleged human trafficker and this gang member, MS-13 gang member.
Yeah, why don't y'all, like, Democrats, like, let this guy live right next to y'all, like, right next door. Have all of his gang buddies on the stoop outside on his steps next to your house, drinking 40 ounces and all that, planning crimes. Why don't y'all, like, do that? Y'all got a lot of... y'all want to talk a lot about saving these gang members, but y'all don't want to house them. Like, come on, y'all.
It's truly striking to me. Karen.
Thanks, Caroline. The president was posting on Truth Social today about helping American farmers. And last week in his cabinet meeting, he was talking about a plan to work with farmers to retain workers who are in the U.S. illegally, provided that they leave and then come back through what he said would be a legal process. Can you give details on what that would look like? How many workers he's...
All right, that's a good question, because I wouldn't know how to answer this one. I would just be like, we're going to let the president answer that. Next question. She's asking about the farmers, right? Of how it helped the farmers. All right, let's see.
In his cabinet meeting, he was talking about a plan to work with farmers to retain workers who are in the U.S. illegally, provided that they leave and then come back through what he said would be a legal process. Can you give details on what that would look like? How many workers he's talking about? How long a plan like that would take to implement, and the timeline for more details on getting this actually to implementation?
I can check in with our immigration and our policy team and get you some more details on that, Karen.
And is this something he wants to roll out soon? I mean, he was talking back and forth with Secretary Rawlings.
Right.
This is kind of imminent that he wants to do this.
Yeah, look, the president is in constant communication with all of his cabinet secretaries, particularly Secretary Rawlings, who has the backs of American farmers and ranchers. It's something that he spoke about with her in the front of all the cameras in the cabinet room, but I'll check in with not only our immigration team, but also with USDA, and we'll get you an answer.
Shout out to P. Jeezy 206. Welcome to the squad. He got a new membership. Thug Life. Shout out to you, bruh.
Hi, Caroline.
Hi.
I like how she answered that. Like, yo, like, we're going to let the person that's in charge of all of that answer that. Because I would have been like, I mean, I basically would have said the same thing. Not even going to lie.
It's good to see you in here.
You do. The president has long said that it would be an abuse of power for a president to direct prosecutors to investigate him. Last week, President Trump explicitly directed the Justice Department to scrutinize Chris Krebs to see if it can find any evidence of criminal wrongdoing. How is that not an abuse of power to direct the Justice Department to look into an individual, a named individual?
Look, the president signed that executive order. It's the position of the president in this White House that it's well within his authority to do it. Otherwise, he wouldn't have signed it. And he signed it, and that's his policy. Jeff, how you doing?
Fine, thanks, Caroline. A follow-up on Harvard. The president floated on Truth Social, I believe, the possibility of removing tax-exempt status. How serious is that threat, and are there other universities he's considering?
Ooh, tax-exempt status being threatened. Oh, wow.
And then a follow-up on
Harvard.
Foreign policy. Can you give us an update on what the president hopes to come from the next round of talks with Iran?
Sure. First, when it comes to Harvard, as I said, the president has been quite clear they must follow federal law. He also wants to see Harvard apologize, and Harvard should apologize for the egregious anti-Semitism that took place on their college campus against Jewish American students. There were professors who said that he had engaged in discriminatory behavior against Jewish Jewish students. Of course, you had the former president of the university saying bullying and harassment depends on the context. You also had an encampment on Harvard Yard that we all saw play out before the cameras. The university failed to impose formal discipline on any students for this anti-Semitic conduct violations, including the occupation of a campus building and the disruption of classes with bullhorns. The president believes Harvard should apologize to its Jewish American students for allowing such egregious behavior. As for the tax-exempt status, I would defer you to the IRS for any updates. I do want to answer your question on Iran. Of course, the maximum pressure campaign on Iran continues, but as you know, the president has made it clear he wants to see dialogue and discussion with Iran while making his directive about Iran never being able to obtain a nuclear weapon quite clear. And the president spoke to the Sultan of Oman today, who helped facilitate these talks. I have a readout for all of you. He held a call with the Sultan of Oman today, and he thanked him for hosting the first direct meeting between the United States and Iran.
Bro, remembering them names is crazy.
And emphasized the need for Iran to end its nuclear program through negotiations. The two leaders also discussed the United States' ongoing operations against the Houthis and emphasized that the Houthis will pay a severe price until they end their attacks on maritime traffic in the Red Sea. As you know, an additional negotiation between Steve Witkoff and Iran's representative has been scheduled for Saturday. And since these are ongoing negotiations, I have nothing more to add on that.
Thank you, Iran.
Sure.
Oh, thank you, Caroline. When you said that the president said that Iran will never have nuclear weapon, is the focus on dismantling the entire nuclear program, or it just restricting enriched uranium or the missile program?
The president does not want to see Iran have a nuclear program. He does not want Iran to obtain a nuclear weapon. He's been very clear about this. Shelby.
Thanks, Caroline.
Shelby, you have a seat today.
I know, stole it.
Glad to see it.
Two quick ones on TikTok. First, is the president expecting to extend the TikTok ban that's now June?
Ooh, this is a good question. Is the president expecting to expand the TikTok ban? I would, if I was Trump, I'd be like, nope.
19th if China doesn't come to the table in time?
Well, June 19th is a long ways away, obviously. I think it's 2 months away. 2 months is a long time, and the Trump administration, as you have all seen, we work at Trump speed around here. We get a lot done, so definitely don't want to get ahead. The vice president continues to lead these negotiations and talks. The president's involved, and they're ongoing.
And then the president previously said he'd consider reducing tariffs on China in order to get a TikTok deal done. Is that option still on the table?
Look, the president has made his position on China quite clear, although I do have an additional statement that he just shared with me in the Oval Office. The ball is in China's court. China needs to make a deal with us. We don't have to make a deal with them. There's no difference between China and any other country except they are much larger. And China wants what we have, what every country wants, what we have, the American consumer. Or to put it another way, they need our money. So the president, again, has made it quite clear that he's open to a deal with China, but China needs to make a deal with the United States of America. Sure.
On tariffs, yesterday in the Oval Office.
Which outlet are you with?
The Canadian Public Broadcaster.
Oh, nice to see you.
Thank you. Yesterday in the Oval Office, President Trump suggested that there could be some help for automakers. I'm wondering what that looks like. Is it tariff relief on the 25% tariffs that are in place right now, or the new tariffs that are coming up in May on auto parts? And a second on Canada, if I may. President Trump's tone when it comes to Canada-U.S. relations, Canadians have noticed it's shifted a bit in the past few weeks. Ever since the election campaign started, he stopped talking about Canada becoming the 51st state, at least publicly. I'm wondering if that's on purpose and why.
I would reject the president's position on Canada has shifted. Perhaps he just hasn't been asked about Canada by questions from this group in the Oval Office, but they see him almost every day. But the president still maintains his position on Canada. The United States has been subsidizing Canada's national defense, and he believes that Canadians would benefit greatly from becoming the 51st state of the United States of America. As for autos and auto parts, I don't have anything to read out for you there, but I think the point the president was making is flexibility, and he has flexibility when it comes to negotiations and talks, but ultimately his goal in his fair trade deals that he is pursuing with many countries around the world is to put the American worker first. And we had automakers and auto workers here at the White House on Liberation Day who believe in this president and his negotiating ability to put them first and to bring those jobs back to the United States of America. And the president's been very clear about that in his conversations with the automakers as well. Deanna, go ahead.
Thanks, Caroline. One on Ukraine and one on China. On Ukraine, this past weekend, Zelensky offered an invitation to President Trump, extending an offer for him to visit Ukraine. Just wondering if there's any update on that. Has Trump seen that offer and what he's thinking about?
I don't know. Actually, I haven't talked to the president about that, or if he saw Zelensky's offer. I'm sure he did. I haven't spoken to him about it. I can ask him what he thinks. I certainly don't have any plans to share on a potential trip to Ukraine, though.
And then on China, this last week, Chinese officials were posting videos on, social media sites depicting Trump, J.D. Vance, Elon Musk in AI-generated videos working in factories, putting together Nike shoes and, iPhones and products like that. Does the White House, have they seen these videos? Do you guys have a response to that?
I have seen the videos. I'm not sure who made the videos or if we can verify the authenticity, but whoever made it clearly does not see the potential of the American worker, the American workforce. The president believes in the American people, and he knows that we have the best, not only consumer base in the world, but also the best workforce in the world, and that's why he's so focused on bringing investments home and shoring up our critical supply chains and bolstering our manufacturing here as well. Brett.
We got 45,000 views in here. If y'all can't hit the like button, stop playing. It is what it is. I got to stop the video because she talked a lot. You know what I mean? Shout out to her, doing a very, very good job. I want to go to the chat for a minute. Super chats is open. Charlie AG said, neither does American people. Heavy Duty said, yeah, there's a Middle Eastern person saying America was never great, but greater than your country. This is the comment section. Nadir said, real Americans are the Indians. Y'all going crazy.
Would the president support a ban on members of Congress trading stocks?
I'm certain that...
Soap said, we need Canada and Greenland. I think they need us. Van Vic RIN said, USA can swap California for Alberta. Paul says, so proud of black men who voted for Trump. And then... Charlie AG said, our kids do not need to be up all night putting buttons on phones.
Something the president would be interested in looking at, and I can ask him if he would support such a bill. Sure. Yes.
I have a question about the president's post from this morning on farmers. He asked farmers to be patient and just hold on. But
he said our kids don't need to be up all night putting buttons on phones. Yo, you are crazy, bro.
a lot of farmers that I've talked to in the last week or so have said, they're in the middle of spring planting season, and that a trade war makes everything sort of up in the air. What would his message to them be? And also, is there anything specifically planned to provide relief like in President Trump's last term?
Yes, well, relief is being considered. The Secretary of Agriculture, I know, has spoken to the president about that, and again, it's being considered. And as for the president's message to the farmers, he put it out himself. He could speak for himself much better than I can speak for him, and so I would just direct you to the statement he had telling the farmers again and reiterating his support for them and that he has their backs, which he certainly does. Kelly, in the back.
Thanks, Caroline. Two questions. The first one, a Georgia man was just arrested over alleged threats to kill Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard. Reportedly, there is now increased security around the FBI Deputy Director. Can you talk about the level of threats against various administration officials, and then a second one on Biden?
I'm sorry to hear that. I had not seen that report. It's very unfortunately, and obviously the White House...
Yeah, Jeff said, imagine phones made by adults instead of children in locked up buildings.
President and the entire administration condemn any threats of violence against any administration officials or public officials on both sides of the aisle here in Washington, D.C. It shouldn't be tolerated, and we commend the local law enforcement agencies for arresting this individual.
Former President Biden, he's set to deliver his first major speech since leaving office tonight. He plans to talk about what I'm told will be Social Security under the current administration, closing of offices, longer wait times, harder for seniors and people with disabilities to access earned benefits, is what Democrats have been saying today. I wanted to get the president's response, or if he plans to respond to this, and comments on what Democrats are calling cuts to Social Security.
My first reaction when seeing former President Biden was speaking speaking tonight was, I'm shocked that he is speaking at nighttime. I thought his bedtime was much earlier.
Come on, Karoline Leavitt. You can't go crazy on Biden like that. Yes, you can go crazy. Go in on him.
That his speech tonight, I understand the topic of his speech will be Social Security. Let me make it very clear ahead of former President Biden's remarks. President Trump, is absolutely certain about protecting Social Security benefits for law-abiding, tax-paying American citizens and seniors who have paid into this program. He will always protect that program. He campaigned on it, he protected it in his first term, and he's back again to continue protecting it. On the topic of Social Security, I have some news before I let you all go. Later this afternoon, the president will be signing a presidential memorandum aimed at stopping illegal aliens and other ineligible people from obtaining Social Security Act benefits. The memorandum will direct the administration to ensure ineligible aliens are not receiving funds from the Social Security Act programs. It will expand the Social Security Administration's fraud prosecutor program to at least 50 U.S. attorney offices and establishes a Medicare and Medicaid fraud prosecution program in 15 U.S. attorney offices. Wow. The memorandum will also require the Social Security Administration Inspector General to investigate earning reports for individuals aged 100 or older with mismatched Social Security records to combat identity theft. And the memorandum will direct the Social Security Administration to consider whether to reinstate the use of civil monetary penalties against individuals who engage in Social Security fraud, an effort that has been paused for several years. These taxpayer funds.
Yeah, they need to do something like against that. Hold on, let's see what he's
saying. Today, and we talked through what the president's decision is, what's the purpose of that decision, and how it's going to be.
Got the senior White House official, Budowich.
Implemented, and then we strategize on how to communicate it to the American people. That communication usually goes through the media. They pick and choose the facts they want to focus on and the narratives they want to drive. And so we thought we'd do it a little bit differently this time. Take out the media and show the American people what the conversation's like that we normally have. Get into the details, the thinking, and the purpose of this and how it's in through the short term and long term.
The amount of transparency that's going on in this administration. Like, they basically got like the senior White House official. They got Karoline Leavitt up here. They got Miller up here. And so they're going to talk about, it's a discussion on tariffs. So they're basically giving you an insight on how they all talk before they address people. Like, this is very interesting.
Term is going to affect.
Have y'all ever seen an administration this transparent before? I've never seen it, unless it happened before my time. Like, I have never. The Democrats have never done anything. Everything has been behind closed doors. And you could say, okay, well, the internet wasn't as big as it was back in the day, right? I don't know. But utilizing the internet and showing us everything in real time, I love this, bro.
The American people. Stephen, you've been with the president for a long time. You were a part of the first administration and some of the battles economically, taxes, that had historic impacts on improving the economy. Today's a big day. Can you talk about the president's historical view on global trade and the tool of tariffs or the use of tariffs that he envisions, not just through Liberation Day today, but how he's used it over the years?
Yes, well, the announcement today is the most significant action on global trade policy that has taken place in our lifetimes. It's not even a close call. I mean, this is probably the biggest event that's happened on global trade since the very ill-fated decision that we are now reversing of knocking down all of America's trade tariffs and revenue policies that led to the offshoring and outsourcing of all of our industry. So this is the great reversal of that great betrayal, is how I would look at it. So in the 20th century, successive American presidents knocked down all of the policies that we had to protect American industry, and they did insane things like letting China into the World Trade Organization, as an example. And we watched all of our factories go overseas. This is the complete reversal of that. This is the great onshoring, the great reshoring of American jobs and wealth. So if you look at America today, we're totally dependent on foreign countries for the supplies that make this country run, for all of the essential goods, materials, manufactured products that make it possible for us to live our lives. Our cars, our electronics, all the materials that go into our homes, our buildings, our medical supplies, our entire supply chains are completely embedded in foreign countries. So if there's a national emergency of any kind, and a country shuts off an import, or a foreign power embargoes a sea lane, we are then left defenseless, helpless, because of the decisions that prior leaders made that President Trump is now reversing to let all of these industries leave our country. And so what he's doing today is, for the first time ever, he's saying that if you have stolen our jobs and therefore threatened our national security, we will apply a reciprocal tariff based on the degree of your misconduct. So for countries like China, for example, they will see a very high tariff rate because they've engaged in the most egregious conduct that threatens our national security. For countries that have severe but not as severe misconduct, they'll see a moderate but not as high tariff rate. The effect, though, of those global tariffs will be that companies will have to move their production back into the United States. So factories will leave, whether it be Mexico or Canada or Vietnam or Cambodia or China or the European Union.
I think they're hoping that this is going to happen. This is not a guarantee that these companies are going to come back to America. It's not a guarantee. I think it'll help.
They will come back to the United States to produce their products.
Zigzag said, I'm 72 years old, and this is the most open presidency I had seen. Yeah, Zigzag, I've never seen nothing like this before. Yo, I didn't know you were 72. Shout out Thug Life. You got special Thug Life. 72. Yeah, you live longer than me. I've not seen anything like this before.
To make their goods. And in so doing, yes, it will create jobs. Yes, it will increase revenues. But most importantly, it will restore our national security so that we will not be dependent on anyone else to survive and thrive as a nation.
This is going to be like a major shocker to the countries that's been taking advantage of us. Can you imagine, like, going from Joe Biden allowing anything and everything to happen and having all of these checks like sent to him? Didn't they just like investigate like a check, a $40,000 check? I think Jesse Waters or somebody like that exposed him on it, that was given to Joe Biden. Like, and I don't want to say what it was for, right? We checked Jesse Waters and all of that for that. But, you know, you seeing like all this corruption and everybody can be bought. And then you get a president like this, like everything stops. Like, no, like when I'm in here, this ain't going down. Like, these countries are probably on pins and needles right now, like walking on eggshells. They don't know what's about to happen.
That's the significance we're talking about today. The most important economic event of our lifetimes.
And Stephen, he didn't just wake up this morning and say, I want to implement tariffs. You talk about the national security crisis, but this is something the president has thought about, discussed, contemplated for years, decades?
Yes, his entire professional life. If you go back to interviews with President Trump.
I want to watch this, right? So a 90-day tariff pause. I want to watch what Piers Morgan's got to say about this. Now, Piers Morgan is not on Trump's side with this.
China still somewhere in the neighborhood of demagogue who can do no right. Is how it went down, make of it what you will. Well, the truth is exactly where he is, somewhere in the middle. If the 2028 election is somehow Obama versus Trump, as Steve Bannon suggested in the same show, you can safely bet that Bill Maher will not be backing the president. But he's also figured out that defending Democrats to the hilt over every cultural excess and constantly smearing Trump as a dangerous demagogue who can do no right isn't working out very well either. As for the tariffs, there's no doubt that they have caused chaos in the markets. But there's also no doubt that many countries are now hurriedly negotiating new trade terms that will benefit the US. And if MAGA is as divided and furious about the trade war as we've been led to believe, well, nobody told the crowd at UFC in Florida this weekend.
Oh, yeah, I seen that. Yeah, they were all showing Trump love. All right, let's see what they saying.
Where are we with Tariff Gate? Because it seems to me the biggest problem right now for the administration is not the principle of leveling tariffs, which can be debated, or the overarching philosophy behind it, which is that America should be doing more
Piers Morgan is not American, right? So he's not really going to be for tariffs at all.
Manufacturing. I think most people agree with that. The real problem is the constant mixed messaging from the top people at the White House is causing, I think, real uncertainty and real damage, not least to Donald Trump's approval ratings on the economy.
Yeah, 100%. There's really no argument about it. I mean, the folks that are saying art of the deal are hilarious. So, and it can be proven very simply. So, first, he does these global, massive nuclear tariffs. So, as you know, appears on this show, I said they'll never last. They're maniacal. And I also said, as you're pointing out, that tariffs can be done right. They could be targeted and strategic based on industries or countries in specific. So then Donald Trump backpedals, and you can tell it's a backpedal and not some sort of art of the deal because he got absolutely nothing in return. So the 90-day pause was based on zero give back from any other country. It's because he had miraculously crashed the stock market and the bond market at the same time, which was previously held unimaginable because one is supposed to go up while the other one goes down, but he managed to do both. And now China tariffs is super strong. Okay, exemptions for iPhone.
I don't like this panel because I think Chink is going to be the stronger of these guys. So he's Pierce Morgan, Chink versus this guy. This is not going to be good.
And electronics. Why? Because he hadn't thought it through. He hasn't thought through any of this. He's always doing this in a way that makes no sense at all. And by the way, if you like tariffs and you like the idea of rebuilding manufacturing in this country, Donald Trump just did massive damage to it. Because after this, who's going to want to do tariffs again? So there's absolutely no planning here. And then let's see how he negotiates, if he can negotiate with China at all. But it's done nothing but damage and gotten us no good return so far.
Okay, Gordon Chang, your response to that?
Well, yes, so far, but we're very early into this process. And yes, I don't like a lot of the turbulence and a lot of the backtracking, but we got to see how this turns out. Remember, with this 90-day pause, President Trump is going to be negotiating with a lot of countries. We're going to end up stitching trade deals with them, and we're going to leave China out in the cold. And China's never been there, or at least hasn't been there for decades. So I think this is a fascinating process. It has actually a possibility.
So I went to a speaker convention, right? And one of the guys, like, he had like this new like popular speaker. It was in Chicago. It's called Exponent. And, I got like a movie theater or whatever, so I get into audio. And he was talking about the manufacturing process. And he was saying, like, for the speaker to be manufactured in America, it will be 8 times the cost to build it's like a loudspeaker. So it's like a tower speaker. He said it will be 8 times the cost to build it in America. He said it's cheaper to just have it built in China, and whatever the tariff is, still have it come over here than it is to build in America. Like, that was very like interesting to me, and then like he's worried about if he did have it built in America, the quality of the product. So this is they build almost everything in China. It's crazy.
Possibility of working, and it's absolutely got to work. President Trump knows what he needs to do. Now, he may not do it in the way we like,
but they would just, raise the cost of whatever and pass that tariff cost on to the consumer. You see what I'm saying? But like when he said that, when he was saying like the manufacturing cost in America is just too extensive, like it would raise the price to 8 times the price. Like, I'm like, yo, and he wasn't trying to embellish or anything, because they asked him. They're just like, because he was doing a demonstration of his speaker, movie theater speakers and, just like listening speakers for hi-fi or whatever. And he was just telling it like straight, like what it is. He was like, oh, I would love to manufacture here. It's just way too expensive.
But I think he's going to eventually get it done. So let's wait until the end of the process before making judgments about whether this works or not.
All right, Josh Rogan,
so far.
There are 90 days. Yeah, I mean, Josh, there are 90 days to negotiate with countries. According to people at the White House, they've already had a lot of countries get in touch to try and do new deals. Is it right to judge this now, or should we be a little bit more patient, notwithstanding the fairly reckless way that this has so far been rolled out?
Well, to be sure, Piers, there is a lot of truth to the fact that all of these countries are coming to make deals with the Trump administration. They were doing it before. They'll continue to do it. And I'm rooting for the United States, and I think most Americans are rooting for the Trump administration to succeed, but it's impossible to ignore the fact that trade deals take months, if not years, to negotiate, and negotiating 90 of them in 90 days is not only unprecedented, it's basically fantastical. And, you know, will they get 10? Will they get 20? Will they get 30? I hope they get as many as they can, but what is the cost of that turbulence? What is the benefit versus the price that we pay while we're subjecting our economy and all these other economies, by the way, all these economies around the world that are so dependent on us, to all of this suffering and pain while we, you know, change our policy this way and that way? It just has to be weighed against the perceived benefits. So it's complex, and you know, I'm not saying that they won't succeed to some degree, but it's impossible to ignore the fact that the way that they're doing it is causing massive, massive damage, not just to our economy. And I agree with Gordon that, you know, it's time to confront Chinese predatory and unfair trade practices across the board. But we get one shot at this. And I think isolating China is going to be really difficult, especially when China is increasing its relationship with all the countries around the world that we're also alienating at the same time. So, yeah, it's not impossible that he could succeed, but it doesn't look good. It doesn't look good because of the way it's gone so far. We have to be honest about that.
The state of the economy right now, they've never been worse for Trump. So now the American people have moved from blaming Biden to now blaming Trump, and his own approval rating on the economy is plummeting pretty rapidly. Now, I know Trump well, as you do, and he won't like that. He won't like the fact that his economic polling is plummeting. So this has to work quite quickly, doesn't it?
Yeah, Piers, I think, well, first of all, the just him walking into the UFC, like you said, we're going to get into, I've never seen anything like that. I mean, I saw Michael Jackson when I was a kid, and it was at that level, but we'll get into that. But Piers, here's my thing. Obviously, all we're going to hear is the fear-mongering from the other side. Everything from the past 8 years when he first came in, it was, we're going to go to war with Korea. He was a Russian asset. We're going to go to war. Everything is fear-mongering. Piers, the guy hasn't been in for 3 months. Everybody needs to just relax. Just like Gordon said, let it take time. And I have an analogy, Piers. Our country...
Oh, man. I think Chink's going to get this guy.
Like, you know what, a heroin addict, when they finally stop doing the heroin, and they put them in a room, they're detoxing, they're shaking, they're sweating, they're going through a bunch of, bodies are convulsing. That's what America's going through, Piers. We've been hooked on this freaking government, everybody walking all over us, every country taking advantage of us. It's going to hurt for a little while, Piers, but guess what? The tariffs are going to work.
Y'all leave him alone, man. They saying the raging tomato. Y'all leave him alone, bruh.
Market jumped 400 points today. Everybody needs to chill. And then, Piers, by the way, how many factories are reopening? Steel jobs are coming back to America. Japan pledged $1 trillion to come here. The UAE committed $1.4 trillion in 10 years. Saudi Arabia just lined up $600 billion, possibly hitting $1 trillion. It's not small talk. It's respect. And Cenk said it's not the art of the deal. This is exactly what it is. He knows how to play this freaking game. Now he doesn't have all the Russia and all the crazy shit happening around him. Just give him some time. Let him cook. Everything's going to be okay. You'll see. Trust me.
Let him cook.
All right, Cenk, trust Vinny.
Cheers. Yeah, no, I definitely don't. No offense, Vinny. So listen, what would have garnered trust is if he had done this in a rational way and said, here's the industries I'm protecting, here's the countries I'm targeting, and I'm going reciprocal. If China's got 20%, we're going to put 20% on them, and it's non-negotiable, right? Or we're going to negotiate it down to 0 so that we're got it fair for both sides. But to do 145%, I mean, you might as well do 1,000,000%. It doesn't make any sense. At that price, you can't sell any goods. So he's not thinking this through. He's doing this in a crazy way. And you guys are saying, hey, let's see how it plays out. It's only 3 months in. I get it, and that's fair.
Dude, they try to let's make this easier on China. He should have just did 20%, did a reciprocal of 20%. and that'll be it. But to go 145% is just insane. Like, bro, like he just wants these Democrats want everything super easy for China. Am I bugging?
And there's a long way to go with 4 years. But what you can't say at the same time is that it's worked so far. It hasn't. It did crash the stock market. It did crash the bond market. And Donald Trump retracted those because he had
but why are you not talking about the stock market bouncing back? Why ain't he talking about that?
crashed the markets. That's not part of any plan. That's just a giant screw up, and he got nothing in return. So you can say, hey, maybe he'll get better.
He did fall 500 points recently.
Later, and that's always true, of course, right? But to say that he's cooking now, no, he's cooked, not cooking. And so far, he's done nothing but absolutely bungle it and got nothing in return.
But Chase,
all that means is just buy up.
What do you expect in 3 months, brother? It's gonna take time, and it's gonna be ugly. China has owned our asses, Trank, for how long? And the only thing I fear, Piers, the last time, because listen, at the end of the day, all these other countries they're gonna bend the knee. China is our actual threat. When people say they're our adversary, no, that's our enemy, okay, Piers? It's freaking China. And the last time Trump tried to hold them accountable and we had a trade war with China, a virus mysteriously leaked out of a lab that we not only opened, we funded, and the main guy behind the helm that this virus leaked from got a preemptive pardon and his hands were washed and he has no accountability. That's the only actual fear. Trump is the only one that is holding their freaking foot to the fire. And I'm sorry, Pierre. And Josh, you said at the beginning that I disagree when you said that people are hoping for the success. The majority of the people that I know on the left, Josh, hell no. They're like, no, they want it to fail. They want it to burn just so they could say it was Trump. It was Trump. We told you. That's not America, brother. We have the freaking president.
He need to take his blood pressure medicine.
And today's video.
Let me show y'all this, get a little bit more up to speed. What's going on?
In today's video, President Trump has frozen.
Administration cut the school off from $2.2 billion. Private universities can teach whom they can admit and hire, and which area of study and inquiry they can pursue.
Now, obviously, people are going to push back on this. The Trump administration is already being sued. But let me just lay out why legally they have the right to do this. This happened with the Civil Rights Act of 1964.
This is Woke University dealt major blow by Trump.
Which gave the federal government the authority to withhold funds from any program or activity that discriminated against people based on race, color, or national origin. That's exactly what Harvard is doing today by discriminating against Asians and white students. Secondly, the Department of Defense also refused to fund schools that did not allow ROTC to take place. This was actually called the Solomon Amendment of 1996. And we could go on and on and on, but the bottom line here is Trump does have the authority to do this.
And while officially the Trump moves here are in the name of fighting anti-Semitism on college campuses after the series of high-profile incidents, Harvard's president calls them direct governmental regulation on higher ed. Here's how a Harvard law professor put it.
It's a transparent effort to change what is taught, what we say in our classrooms, what we teach our students, to make sure that the only things that are actually said on university campuses are things that the Trump administration wants to hear and wants to be said.
That's not entirely accurate, okay? The administration's focus is on obviously combating anti-Semitism when it turns violent, right? Students have the right to protest. They can organize and protest. They can do all that. But when you started to get physical and prevent students from getting the education that their parents are clearly paying a lot of money for, then we have problems. Now, again, even if you say, hey, you know what, Trump is still wrong here, that we have a right to do and say and admit whoever we want into our university, well, guess what? As the president of the United States, he has the right to freeze any federal funding to Harvard. Now, just in case you didn't know this, last year, Harvard's revenue was $6.5 billion. Federal funds that are being frozen, all that really means for Harvard is they're going to have to switch things around to keep those research projects going. So it's a nuisance, it's annoying, but it's not going to end the university.
I think that this is all about anti-Semitism. I mean, I believe that what's happened on these campuses in the Ivy League and in other places, mostly private institutions, has been an abomination. And someone has to stand up for these Jewish
It's not going
kids.
to be the rabbi at the table.
Someone stands up. Someone has to stand. Someone has to stand up.
It's not going to be my friends in Jewish studies who have the
until Donald Trump came along in his administration and decided to connect federal funds to stamping out the scourge of anti-Semitism on these campuses.
Like Nick Fuentes.
Nobody,
like the Sikh Heil
nobody was willing to
salutes.
stand up for him.
Like
And
standing
finally
up for
he did.
Alliance
And I
for
think the American
Deutschland.
people don't want a private university with a $53 billion endowment to get $1 while a Jewish kid is being discriminated against on campus.
First of all, let me just hold on. Let me just
What a
say.
complete joke.
Why is it a
You guys
joke?
are nowhere. You have white supremacists in your party and in your administration. Oh, Nick Fuentes. Oh, whatever.
What? This guy's ridiculous. Somebody said you guys buy stuff at a marked up 100%. I hate to tell you, Americans pay a hefty price. If I pay $20, you pay $40.
It's just a dinner. Oh, Alliance for Deutschland. Oh, it's not really a Sikh Heil salute. Go to CPAC. There's anti-Semitic
unhinged.
conspiracy
You
theories
sound crazy.
all over the place.
Do you not want these college campuses to do better? Do you condone what is
That's
happening?
what Harvard agreed to do. They already agreed.
That's why we're so focused on telling you what the mainstream media refuses to tell you.
Power to do it. That there is a complete distinction between the university addressing its own problems and the government forcing them to do it in a particular way.
The entanglement comes when you take federal money. If Harvard wants to give up the federal money, you can do all the anti-Semitism I guess you want at Harvard or any other school, but
Yes,
that's
I
not the
want
issue.
lots of
That's not the issue.
Now, your favorite president, Barack Obama, said this: Harvard has set an example for other higher ed institutions, rejected an unlawful and ham-handed attempt to stifle academic freedom. It's not unlawful. While taking concrete steps to make sure all students at Harvard can benefit from an environment of intellectual inquiry, rigorous debate, and mutual respect, let's hope other institutions follow suit. So let me get this straight. You agree with Harvard discriminated against Asians? You agree with them discriminated against white students? Listen, I'm all for black people attending Harvard. That's great. But not at the expense of other students because of their race. Now, President Trump responded this morning. He said perhaps Harvard should lose its tax-exempt status and be taxed as a political entity if it keeps pushing political...
Perhaps Harvard should lose its tax-exempt status and it's taxed as a political entity if it keeps pushing political, ideological, and terrorist-inspired supporting sickness. Remember, tax-exempt status is totally contingent on acting in the public interest. He's right, though. Trump is right. If you're going to be pushing left-wing like propaganda, you need to go ahead and, you know what I mean? Like, you ain't about to be tax exempt. He right with that though, like
rhetoric. Okay, remember, tax exempt status is totally contingent on acting in the public interest. Now, you tell me what's worse: the fact that we're funding these universities to begin with taxpayer money, or that law professors who are teaching law at that university is continuing to lie about the legal authority of the executive branch to do something like this. Listen to this clip.
And tyranny, frankly, is the only word to describe what the Trump administration is doing with respect to universities. He's seeking to block funding, billions of dollars to university hospitals, to medical research, without any legal authority. He is violating the First Amendment rights of universities and faculty by demanding that if universities want to keep this money, they have to suppress our speech and change what we teach and how we study. And he's doing all of this and issuing all of these demands in defiance of any kind of legal limit that would prohibit him from making these sorts of demands. So our lawsuit is contesting the legality of all of this. We're trying to defend the First Amendment in this context, and we're really grateful that President Garber appears to have gotten the same message, that there's just no complying and no negotiating with an authoritarian demand like this.
Yeah, so that just shows you where taxpayer money is going, to universities who have professors like that who clearly lie about the authority of the executive branch and their ability to freeze federal funding. Now, you can disagree with his politics, but to claim that he is actually illegally doing this, that right there, ladies and gentlemen, is atrocious. Now,
yeah, he could do it. All right, y'all, I'm about to get up out of here. Shout out to everybody. I gotta go to Panda Express, get something to eat. Thug life. But I appreciate everybody, you know what I mean, checking in. Hopefully y'all subscribe. We try to get to 100. What we got? 125,000. We try to get to 130,000. You know what I mean? It is what it is, but I appreciate everybody. Make sure y'all go ahead and follow my TikTok. My TikTok is purely politics. You know what I'm saying? And this is kind of a mix between politics and entertainment.